You think, how is any of this going to work out? But eventually it just will. It just somehow will work out. If you push yourself towards what you want to do, you'll find ways for it to work out. It will happen. I can't explain it, but I just feel like when you push yourself towards what you're actually passionate about or what your dream is, you can't think about all these little things that are scaring you along the way. You just have to go for it and figure them out as you go.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 7 of the Idea to Reality podcast. I'm your host, Tal Tamir, and on the show today, we have Rachel Jones. Rachel is an incredibly humble, down-to-earth person who actually ditched her 9-to-5 job as a nurse and ended up creating an extremely successful travel blog called Hippie In Heels with over 1 million views per month. Rachel has an incredibly motivating story that will leave you inspired to find your passion, pursue your dreams, and live the life you deserve. Rachel is truly living that laptop lifestyle that we hear all about on social media and Instagram, but the way she made it happen is truly incredible. She takes us on her entire journey from when she left her job all the way to present day, and that includes backpacking India, traveling the entire country, seeing places that we only see really on National Geographic and on the TV. She has experienced these places in person, and the only reason that these things have happened is not because she had a perfect scenario lined up, is not because she had a ton of money saved away, but it's because she made that leap of faith to make it happen. She trusted the process. She didn't even know that blogging was a thing, that you can make money from it. She just went to backpack, and as she was there, doors opened up, and she opened those doors, jumped all the way through, and made those crucial leaps of faith in her journey, and things have worked out incredibly for her so far. I'm so happy. Just so you get an idea about how big Rachel is, she's been doing this for about 5 years, and her blog has been selected as one of the top 50 travel blogs internationally by the Expeditioner, Excellence in Blogging, Best Individual Travel Blog by SAT Awards, and many more. She's been featured in Marie Claire Mexico, Cosmopolitan Spain, Elle Magazine Netherlands, TripAdvisor, BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, you name it, she's been there. What an incredible story. I know that after you listen to this, you'll feel absolutely inspired to make that leap of faith and to get after what has always been on your heart. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this incredible interview with Rachel. I really appreciate you coming on to do this. I think that you're going to be a great guest because so many people want to do what you're doing, you know, creating this blog and this awesome lifestyle. So how did you get started with this? If you could just tell us a little bit about your early life and your childhood. And did you always like to travel, or did this kind of come later on in life?
Growing up in Ohio, I did not travel much at all, actually. We would go to Alabama every year to the same place, Gulf Shores, for vacation, and spent a lot of time deep sea fishing and cleaning the fish and then eating the fish and then fishing again. So it wasn't really growing up with a travel family. But I wanted to travel when I went to college at OSU. I went there for nursing, and I always just was drawn to travel. I always read travel books. I don't know what really, maybe it's because I didn't travel that it made me want to travel and see more things. But my grandma told me when I was like 6 years old, I told her that I wasn't going to live in Ohio forever and that I was going to go see the world. So it's kind of something I always apparently wanted to do since I was a little kid. Then I went to school for nursing, and I was a nurse for a year in North Carolina. And after a year, I just felt like it was a good job and it was a good way to make money, and I liked having a paycheck, but that I was just partying and doing the same thing I did in college, and I was just unhappy with that. I just thought life would be different after college, and I found that it was all just more of the same. So that's when I quit my job and just took off traveling to see what else I could find to do.
Wow, well, you're amazing. Was there someone that you followed, like a travel blogger or people that were traveling that you're like, wow, this is like what I want to do? Or did you just kind of have this idea where I just want to see the world and you just want to make it happen?
So it didn't happen really in either of those ways. One, I didn't know what a travel blog was. I didn't really even know what blogging was. I went to India as a backpacker. I wasn't blogging. At that point, I had already spent summers at college traveling just to Europe, backpacking with friends, which was mostly just partying and everything. So when I went to India, it was like, okay, I'm not going to talk to boys. I'm not going to go drinking. I'm literally going to see sunsets and sunrises and go on hikes and really try and like be what people say a traveler is. And so I kind of tried that, even though it sounds like, okay, you're not being yourself then. It really pushed me to try new things, like try meditation, try yoga, stuff that I would totally never have done at home. And I wasn't blogging then, but I ended up moving to India. I loved India. I ended up meeting a guy there, which is just, I guess, what happens when you're trying really hard not to meet a guy. And I needed a job. And so I thought about what can I do as a job. And I was a masseuse for a while, which was just a really random job. Because I had gotten training while I was traveling. So I'd met a girl who was getting training, and she said she was going to go learn to be a masseuse. And I was like, that could be a nice skill. I'm going to learn how to be one too. So that ended up working out because I could be a masseuse for a while. But while I was living in India, I was getting messages on Facebook all the time from friends of friends who were saying, oh, I know so-and-so, and she told me you've been to India. I'd love to go there. Do you have any tips for me? And the thing is they weren't finding any information online about India for girls traveling alone. And I know that when I went, I wasn't finding any information. So that's what made me think to start a blog. And I looked up, what is a blog? What is a travel blog? And kind of learned everything from Googling it from square one.
Wow. That's awesome. So you went there not even starting a blog. You're just like, I want to go travel the world, backpack, go explore India. And that was kind of one of my other questions. So you got there and you're like, okay, well, did you, before actually rewind for a second, how did you prepare for going to India? Did you save up money? What were those pre-India days like?
Well, I basically I'd been a nurse for just under a year. And that was in North Carolina. They don't make as much money in North Carolina. So I had not saved very much. I think I had like $3,000. So it wasn't going to last me that long. I tried really hard to save that $3,000. It wasn't easy to do actually because rent was really expensive. Everything was so expensive. And really it was just like making ends meet. And that was another thing that I was surprised about because it just seemed like, oh, I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to make all this money. But it didn't happen like that. So I was saving up that bit of money. And then, of course, I had to tell my family that I was quitting my job and not moving at that point. I was just going to traveling to India. And my mom has worked at the same school as a teacher forever. My dad has worked at GM since he was 18. So to them, to quit a good job is like the worst thing you could do. It's like rude to your employers. It's like irresponsible. And they were so disappointed in me. They said, we're not even going to come help you move your stuff from North Carolina. Like, you're on your own if you do this. And so I sold what I had that was big and fit what I could fit in my little car and drove it back up to Ohio and said bye to them and left. And they're like, what are you even doing? And I just said, I feel like this isn't the job I'm meant to do. And maybe if I travel to India, which was on a whim, I don't know why I chose India, but I just felt like I was going to find a new job. And I met all these people who were doing, like, one girl read auras, and some were a little bit too, like hippity-dippity for me. I was like, okay, I don't know if I believe in all of that kind of too spiritual things, but something like a massage course, I was like, that could be something I could do from anywhere in the world if I learned massage. I could travel and I could do massage freelance, and maybe that could be my job. And then if I went back to America, I could open up some kind of like massage studio. So that was kind of my first thought of a job, and while I was traveling India. So I was always thinking while I was traveling, what could I do? I even had thought about buying clothes in India, like the really cool bohemian clothes they sell in the markets there, and finding a way to export them and sell them. So I was definitely traveling with a thought of what could I do instead of being a nurse, and how can I keep this traveling going? But I wasn't thinking online yet because I'm just not tech savvy, so it never even crossed my mind to do a website.
Okay, that's cool. What was that like, like having really no support from your family as far as making this huge leap of faith? Because that's what it is. It's a massive leap of faith. What was your mindset like at that point? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Take me back to the days, like, right before you're getting on that plane to India. What are you thinking?
I was definitely more nervous than excited. I was excited all the way up until, like, the day I left. I was so excited buying hiking boots and going to REI and, like, buying a bunch of crap I didn't need that I found out later. Like, why do I need a compass? I don't need a compass. But I was buying everything. Like, my backpack was ridiculous. I thought I was going to be, like, I don't even know, in the wilderness somewhere. But then the day that I left and my parents dropped me off at the airport, I mean, I could just tell they were mad at me. They were so mad at me when they said bye to me. And it wasn't the first time. Other travels I've done, I went to Africa once in college at Christmas break, and they weren't happy about it. I left early before my finals, and it was just kind of that all over again. And I got to the security line, and I was just crying. And I remember the guy, like, checking my passport and being like, don't be sad, like joking with me. And I was like, and I was really scared. I didn't sleep the whole journey to India. I was so nervous. And then I was doing couch surfing because I was so broke. So that's like the online website where you stay with someone for free and you just meet strangers to stay with. So then I started panicking. What if it's like a weirdo? And I'd done it in Europe, but I hadn't done it in India. And everyone says India's dangerous. So, yeah, it was really scary to do. And once I got there, it was stressful the first few days settling into it. And then when I started traveling, I started calling my parents to say I was safe. And then, it just got back to normal then. They would get excited that I would call and talk about my travels and stuff. And it kind of, then I did have their support. And I ended up getting really, really sick with dengue fever, which is from mosquito bites. And it causes your platelets to go down and you bleed internally. So I was getting nosebleeds and I was getting like big bruises all over. So I almost had to come home, and my parents said, you'll regret it if you come home. You should try to stick it out the last 2 weeks of your trip. And then the next day I met my now boyfriend, Ben. So it ended up being like good that they told me to stay.
That's awesome of them. I feel like a lot of times with parents, they just like really love us, and that's what they know. Like you said, they work their whole lives, same job. So seeing you do this, I feel like they're almost nervous for you, and they don't really know how to express that. But once you got out there and you were doing it, they're like, no, stay. They could probably feel your excitement and your happiness, so they were really happy for you. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine how nervous they were for me being their kid, because when they came to visit me in India, like 2.5 years after I moved there, they were flying into Mumbai, and I live another flight from there. And I was so nervous for them to fly into India. They've never traveled outside the U.S. before, that I flew to Mumbai to meet them, because I was like, oh my God, they're not going to be able to handle it. They're going to get ripped off, and they're going to get lost, and they're not going to be able to figure out how to get to the other airport. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I think they can't even handle getting from one airport to the next to fly onward to me. So what did they think I was doing, running off to India for like months with no money?
Right. Oh my God, that just sounds crazy when you say it like that. It's amazing. You're in India for how long before you started to blog?
About maybe it was like 6 months or 8 months. I was there. I started doing massage, and after I was doing the massages, that was like I'd put up flyers around town, and I could charge maybe like $60 for a massage, which in India is like a lot of money. So I was maybe doing 1 a week, or on a good week, 3 a week or something. And then before I started the blog, I actually also tried to start a candle company. That was a bust. I ended up selling them all to some hotel that bought them, but it was definitely not going to be a career. And then I went to Thailand to meet some friends and travel around for a month with them. And the one girl worked in marketing, and it was her idea about a blog. When I told her I had all these people messaging me on Facebook with India tips, she was like, you should do a travel blog. And I'm like, what's a travel blog? And so that really planted the seed. And then when I got back from that trip, I started researching what are travel blogs and to see if I could even write one.
So she kind of planted the seed for you. But before that, it sounds like you've just been super resourceful in your whole journey, and I'm sure you have to be, traveling to these foreign places, making your way, starting businesses. You don't have anything secure lined up, which is what everyone looks for, is like that solid job, that solid income stream. You just kind of went with it. And so once that seed was planted, you're like, okay, let's look up this travel blog, see what this is about. What are a few of the steps that you took to get started? Because like you said, you didn't really look up to anyone as far as that goes. So what are the first steps that you took to actually start the blog?
So the first thing I remember doing is reading who are the top female travel bloggers. And it was in alphabetical order, and I didn't even get past the A's. It was like Alex in Wonderland, Adventurous Kate, and Ashley Abroad. And I just opened those 3 blogs, and I still read those blogs. And I just saw, what is it they're even writing about? Like, are they writing tips? Are they writing it like a journal? So I was just kind of seeing what people were doing, what their websites looked like. Was it just pictures, or kind of like how were they making money off of them? So I was reading their blogs for like a month while I was doing a lot of YouTubing. I was YouTubing how to start a blog, how to start a website. What is GoDaddy? What is WordPress? Like, I knew nothing. I was like, what is a domain? So I was YouTubing everything. And I made my website on GoDaddy and spent a long time trying to make the theme look pretty, which I look back at it now and it was not pretty. I thought it was at the time, though. Hold on, my dog. Okay. So I worked on the theme, and I wrote for about a month straight before I made my website live. I wrote about all my past travels, and I would wake up in the morning at like 7 and write until my eyes hurt at like 9 at night. And my boyfriend was actually working somewhere else at that time, so I had no distractions. I was just writing constantly, and I was writing about all my past trips in Europe. I had my journals from when I had backpacked in Europe and when I had been in Africa, and so I was writing all of that. I was writing about my India backpacking trip, and I had so much content before I even put the website live. And then I just made it live one day and shared it to my personal Facebook page. And that was kind of the last time I actually really promoted myself on my personal page, because I'm just not really the type to put myself out there like that. I just thought, okay, I've done it once. If they want to follow it, they will. And that's how it all started.
Wow, that's incredible. So did you always, your whole life, have you always journaled, or is that something you kind of picked up when you started traveling?
Pretty much just when I started traveling. Like, as a kid, I did, I was like, okay, I watched a football game today.
Right.
Nothing. But when I started traveling, I did, and I would do I would glue stuff in the journal. I traveled with like a little glue stick, and I would put ticket stubs and postcards and stuff in there. So I had so much information, like even entrance tickets I still had with the price to get in. So I had all this information right in front of me still to bring back so many memories.
What are 2 to 3 important tips, I guess, for people who are just getting started, creating a blog, creating a business, or even just getting started, figuring their life out? I know it's kind of like a broad question, but what few tips have you found helpful for yourself that we can kind of apply to others?
I think that it sounds so cliche, but life is so short, and I do not think that we were meant to just work a 9-to-5 or work a job that just gives us money, and then we on the weekends see our friends or go to a movie, and then we go back to work on Monday and we dread it all day on Sunday. I just felt like, 1, that's not what we're meant to do, and then 2, especially if you're drinking on the weekends and partying, it's like you're missing so much of your youth, and you're not putting your energy towards what you could really be doing and finding your passion. Like, I never knew I could be a writer. I was my worst subject in school. I hated writing. And it wasn't until I actually tried it and opened myself up to it and really like threw myself into it, I saw that I could write, and not only write, but actually make a career out of it. And in the end, earn way more money than I would have as a nurse and still get to follow my passions. So it's like, once you see if you're not on the right path, you have to change it. You can't just keep living that way and then complain about it and say, you know, this, I don't like my job, or I don't like my boss, and just keep saying that and have that be your story. You have to kind of change your narrative and shake it up, which can be really scary. And it's nice if you have some family support or something you can fall back on to really take the leap, because then there's really no excuse. You definitely should take it. I know that if you don't have anything to fall back on, it can be scary, but even saving like $2,000 or $3,000 is enough to take that leap.
Wow, that's crazy, honestly. So, because this is almost like an epidemic, what you were just talking about, the 9 to 5 people hate Monday mornings, love Friday afternoons, and literally just wasting their lives away. And before you know it, in the blink of an eye, your life is, you know, you're 65 years old and your whole life passed right by you. So you were talking about making that leap of faith and finding your passion. Is there any advice you could give to someone that, I guess, doesn't know what they want to do, but they know that they're not happy? Should they just try different things, maybe try traveling? What advice would you give to someone like that?
You don't have to know your passion. I was completely clueless. I just knew nursing wasn't my passion. And I didn't even dislike nursing. I just knew I wasn't like excited to go to work every day. I had no idea what my passion was. I knew I liked to travel, but maybe you like to bake. Maybe you like, you know, go hiking or something, you know, rock climbing. I don't know, whatever you like to do. It doesn't really matter what it is, because you can turn almost anything into a job, even if it was just to blog about rock climbing. I mean, you're never going to find your passion if you keep doing the same thing every day.
Absolutely right. Could not agree more with you. Back to creating the blog, you are totally self-taught, it sounds like. You know, you just got the idea, the seed planted by a friend. You're like, okay, you know, we have this thing called Google and YouTube. I could just research all day, figure out how to blog, how to make a website. So that's what you did in the beginning. You didn't hire any help. You just created a GoDaddy or a WordPress and then just started writing, right?
Yeah.
I have this quick question. You said you had a ton of content out there before you launched. Do you think that was helpful for your initial success? Because they didn't just have one article to read. They had like a plethora of stuff, and they were kind of already starting to follow you on your journey. You think that was helpful?
Yeah, and I already had some people finding it who were Googling something. Like, I had written how to ride a train in India and like where to store your backpack safely. And I hadn't even launched the website, and I had people messaging me like, oh, this article was really helpful. I was kind of nervous I was going to get my backpack robbed on the train. And it was already helping me see what was helping people, what articles people were already finding on Google. And I mean, this was also 4 years ago. So it's gotten a little bit more difficult to rank on Google for these things, because travel blogging has become really popular these days. So I was kind of lucky when I started, but not to say that it's too late now. It's never too late to start. You can still start a travel blog and be successful. But yeah, when I did launch it and people could click on one article, you can backlink. So if I wrote an article about switching from driving, what it was like in America driving, to what it's like driving in India, and then I mentioned something else in there about, maybe I'm talking about cars, so maybe I say something about a train, I would link to my article about train travel in India. So then they're going to click through to that article too. So you start interlinking everything to keep people on your website and keep them reading more.
Yeah, you sound like an SEO expert. Is that something you researched also during those beginning stages, or did that just kind of evolve as you continue to grow?
I researched everything about how to turn it into a business from the very beginning. I had Amazon affiliate links in there from the beginning. I was in affiliate programs from the beginning. I was thinking about SEO. I had an SEO plugin, so I was making sure that my URLs and my meta descriptions and everything had my keyword in them. I was thinking about the keywords I was using. So I definitely used all that from the beginning, and that was all just from YouTube videos.
A lot of people get stuck in this thing, I'm sure you've heard of it, like analysis paralysis, where they just want everything to be so perfect, and they end up never launching because it never will be literally exactly perfect. Did you ever face that, or did you just say, okay, I've got 10 articles up, website looks great to me, I'm going to launch it?
I was probably somewhere in between. I am kind of a perfectionist, but I also, it took me a month, and while I was like worried about having enough content and making sure that that part of the site was ready, I wasn't as obsessed with the design, and I just want to make sure everything worked. I didn't want anyone to click on something and then it didn't work. So I wanted it to be professional enough. But no, I didn't really get too hung up on it.
No, right, of course. I mean, that makes sense. That's the most important thing, is that it's functioning properly at least.
Yeah, and all the pages are there, like About Me page, explaining who you are, making sure you have an easy navigation, basically.
Right, of course. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. Now you have this pretty large social media following. I think it's huge. And how did you get started on social media? What did you do to start? Did you collaborate with other bloggers, or what did that process kind of look like?
Starting out is the worst. Like, even thinking about it right now gives me when you have like 50 Instagram followers and you're getting 5 likes and you're like, oh my God, how do I get more people to see it? It's so annoying. You can use whatever hashtags you want and try to do all the tricks, but it honestly just takes time. Time is what you have to do, because I think even I might have had 10,000 followers within like a year and a half or something. It was slow. It grew really, really slow every day, maybe 10 new followers. It was just like a trickle. And then as you blog longer and become more popular and get featured in more places, instead of it being 10 new followers a day, it'd be 100 followers a day. So it just takes time to get there and to get your name out there. And like, for example, this month I was featured in Marie Claire magazine in Mexico for their June edition, and they put my Instagram handle there. So I saw a bunch of new Instagram followers come. So it's getting featured is probably the best way to go about it. But you can't just write to Marie Claire and say, can you write about me? They have to reach out to you. So that's why it just takes time. And it's so easy to get hung up on it, but that's not what's important. What's important is having good content on your website and working to follow Google guidelines so that you can get people to see your stuff, because social media is always changing. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And I just think of social media as something on the side that you keep working at every day, but you just can't think about the numbers.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. That was very well said. It really comes down to having great content and then just being persistent and patient. And, over time, if you keep at it, your content's great, then people will start reaching out to you, and it's just like a snowball effect. Things will start to happen, but people get lost in the patience, I think. They just wanted everything today. I want 1 million followers next week, and then after a year, they're like, oh, I only have 5,000 followers or 1,000 followers, but they could be right on that brink of making that breakthrough, of getting that first feature, doing that first collaboration. So I think
comparison is the thief of joy. So if you spend your whole time comparing yourself to people, you're never going to be happy. And I think it's really hard right now with Instagram, because when I first started, the only people who had over 100,000 followers were famous people. There wasn't this whole lifestyle blogger and these fashion Instagram celebrities and stuff. And now there are so many who have 500,000 followers. So many. I couldn't even guess how many, that it's really hard not to compare yourself. So with people first starting out, when I first started out and had 500 followers, I was celebrating. I was so excited. I remember celebrating 500 Facebook likes, But I feel like now people think it's not enough and they're not celebrating those numbers, which is really sad because you should. Getting 500 likes is massive to get that on your Facebook page or to have 500 Instagram followers.
Yeah, you're totally right. People get lost in comparing ourselves with, I mean, I'm even guilty of this sometimes also. I've been much, much better recently, but it's hard, you know, it's almost like the world we live in. Everyone's like, oh, how many likes? What is this? How many followers do you have? But like you said, at the end of the day, none of that matters, you know. If you're always comparing yourself to somebody else, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be fulfilled because there's always going to be someone else with more.
Right. And if you're giving good content, when you start working with brands, they don't actually care about the numbers as much as you think they do. They care about who you are as a person and the writing that you're doing and what you're putting out there. And for me, I'm promoting destinations. So they care about if I can actually promote the destination for them and if my readers want to book it. They don't care if I'm putting up the perfect shot and getting, 10,000 likes on a picture on Instagram or something that I am not going to be able to get for them.
Yeah, that was super important what you just said. That's awesome. So, how long were you in India for, by the way?
5.5 years.
Wow, it's amazing. So, you just moved to Mexico, right?
Yes, about 3 weeks ago, I think.
Well, congratulations. I hope the move went well and that, did the move go well? I didn't even talk to you about it.
It went as well as you can imagine when you're taking 2 dogs and 1 cat that you rescued in India and trying to bring them into Mexico. So that's more stressful than when I took my nursing boards. And I have to do it again.
I can only imagine because when we moved across the country a couple times, me and Lauren, we had a cat and a dog, and that was crazy. I can only imagine going from India to Mexico, what that looks like.
Oh, it's the worst. I worried the whole time they were going to die in the back of the plane, and we got scammed by a vet in India, and we had so many issues along the way, finding even an airline that would take the animals. So it was honestly the worst. Like, I even called my parents at one point, and I was like, this is the most stressed I've ever been in my entire life. Because also I'm moving to Mexico just myself, thinking about I'm changing everything. My blog is about India. Are people still going to read it? Am I not going to have any income after this? My boyfriend was changing his job. And then with the dogs, it was really a hard decision. But we both felt like our time in India had kind of come to an end.
I'm sure everyone is still going to follow you. I think it's really cool because it's your next step of the journey. You know, now you get to explore this whole new country. Where in Mexico are you guys?
We're in a city called Merida, but it's a very small city in the Yucatan. It's like 3 hours from Cancun and Tulum. And it's like a Mayan area. There's Mayan ruins everywhere. The people speak Mayan. It's not like the food isn't even like the rest of Mexico. It's Mayan food. There's like all these underwater cenotes everywhere. And I could go in the car. I think it's like 5 hours to the border of Guatemala and like something similar to get to Belize. So there's so many cool places nearby. And it's interesting to be from where we live. I mean, it's still a jungle here, but we're like 15 minutes outside of the city. So we're not in the jungle, but we lived in the jungle in India. We had like monkeys on our balconies, snakes in our house, pythons, all of that.
Oh my God.
Back to like, I'm like 5 minutes from a TGI Fridays. So it's really, really weird.
Wow, that's crazy. So, I mean, it sounds like an amazing place that you found. What's the name of it again?
It's called Merida.
Merida. That sounds beautiful. I love the ruins and the Mayans and the ancient cultures. I think that's all super interesting. I really love all that. So I'm excited to see you explore and hear all these cool places that you find out there.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, I think. There's a lot to see, and I'm already trying all the restaurants, of course, and taking pictures so I can write about it.
Now, I guess this is new for you. So you just moved to Mexico, and are you kind of planning out your trips, or what does that kind of look like for you? Because I know this is new as well. It's like you were in India kind of established. Now you're exploring, like you say, you're 4 or 5 hours from Guatemala and from these different places. So do you kind of map out where you're going to go and then just get after it, or what do you kind of do?
Well, in India, I definitely had made a name for myself in India for sure. And then in Asia, I'd worked with so many tourism boards, but I feel like here in North America, Central America, no one knows I exist, it seems like. Even though my readers are American, I feel like the people in PR and the people who run hotels and stuff don't really know about my blog because I feel like I've been so far removed. I never really went to networking events that all the other travel bloggers went to. I never really got to meet other travel bloggers. I was kind of in my own world. So I definitely need to start networking. It's almost like starting over, which is funny because I have an established blog, but people just don't know about it. So I plan on going to TBEX, which is a travel blogging conference. I actually might be a speaker there, which is terrifying because, like I told you, I don't ever speak.
You're doing amazing, by the way. They're literally a total natural. I'm not just saying that. Trust me.
Thank you. Because I'm already nervous about this speech thing in New York that I might do, which is it would be talking to new travel bloggers, giving them advice and stuff. So I might go do that. I'm not sure if I will because I'm afraid to speak at it a little bit, but it would be really good for me to network and meet brands there and everything. So that's where I'm going to start, and then I'll be able to meet some brands. I'm already talking with some U.S. tourism boards that would be really exciting to go work with. And then I have one trip planned that is in Central America with a friend of mine, and we're kind of up in the air, but we think we're going to do Guatemala and Honduras. We're kind of just looking up the best experiences to have in Central America, and then we're going to plan the trip around that.
And for you, have you heard of Toastmasters?
No.
It's like a small group where people that are trying to break through this fear of public speaking, they get together, and it's almost like a meetup group, and you go and kind of give a little speech to the 4 or 5 people who are there and maybe 10 people, and it helps you break through that fear, I guess you could say, of public speaking. A lot of the big-time speakers, like I'm sure as you know, did not always like speaking. They were also terrified. And a lot of them started with this. So they may have some down there, but definitely something to look into.
Yeah, I will look into that for sure. It's something I need to get over. Brands I work with want me to do Instagram stories where I talk to the camera and YouTube. And what actually happened was I did House Hunters International. They got in touch with me when I first started my blog in India and wanted to film us finding a house in India. And like a rental house. And I agreed because I was so broke and I had no idea what it would be like to have a camera on me because I'd never had a camera on me. But then I found out I hated it. But then you're stuck in a contract and you feel you have to do it then. And I was so uncomfortable that I almost feel like it scarred me from public speaking after that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
But Toastmasters will help.
Yeah, no, it'll definitely help. I totally feel your pain. I'm the same way. I'm very nervous when it comes to that. I've been getting much better recently, and I've been doing a little bit of the Instagram stories and stuff like that. But at first, it's so unnatural. You just feel so nervous when it's just you talking to the camera because you know other people are going to be seeing it. You know, it's all in the mind at the end of the day because, you know, you're a great-looking girl. You are very, very well-spoken. So I know that you're going to do great, so I'm glad that I could at least provide you one of the initial spaces for you to kind of explore this because it's going to be really great for you and a huge next step also.
Oh, thank you. I'll definitely look it up and see if they have this where I live.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. They have it all over the States, but you really, like you said, there's a TGI Fridays down the street, so you never know. So, how do you make an income doing the travel blogging? I'm sure that's a big question that people are having because I feel like our generation now, especially these last few years, everyone wants to be a blogger, everyone wants to travel, you know, the laptop lifestyle. So how do you kind of go about making an income from the blogging?
Right now, it's a lot different than it was when I first started. When I first started, it would be something like a sponsored post, which would be like maybe a hotel in Dublin or somewhere random wants you to link to them. So you would write an article about Ireland and find a way to casually mention their hotel, and they would pay you for it. And that's kind of like a little bit shady, and that's what people do when they first start out to make a couple $100s like right away, and it seems like easy money, but actually it's something that Google doesn't really like, and you could get punished for it. So a lot of people do that for like 6 months, and then they realize, okay, no, this wasn't a very good idea and I shouldn't do it. And they start to see other ways they can make money. And the first way is usually affiliates. So you link to an outfit that you're wearing, or you link to the backpack that you took on your trip on Amazon. And then when people click through, then you get a commission. And actually, if someone clicks through to Amazon to look at the backpack, but they don't buy it, but they have 20 other things in their cart and buy those, you get commission on those. So you could get commission for like the most random things. It's really weird. So when you see your list each month of what you get commission for, you're like, really? Like, that's strange. But so that's one. And then for me now, my main income is from ads on my site, which are just, you scroll past them. You don't have to click on them or anything. It's just people putting eyeballs on the ads. I'm getting paid for that. And I have around 1,100,000 readers per month on my site. So that's definitely the biggest chunk of my income. And then after that is affiliates. And my affiliates are travel insurance is a big one. Visas for India is a big one. Signing up for hosting for creating a blog, because I write a lot of tips about how to blog, is another big one. And then clothing. I love writing about fashion, so I link to the outfits that I wear, and when people buy them, then I get commissions from them. So that's the main ones. And then working with tourism boards, they usually pay you a daily rate. So if I go to Florida and I promote Florida all week, I'll be working with their like government tourism board, and then they pay you at the end of the trip whatever the price was agreed. And hotels will pay you to come and do like an editorial on them and write a little review about staying at the hotel. Or they might just have you do social media only and pay you. And then still sponsored posts, but a different kind. These are more like branded posts that aren't sneaky. It would be like if TripAdvisor had a new booking option, like a new filtering system with booking, and they want me to promote that, they would pay me to just outright promote that and say, this is a sponsored post from TripAdvisor to showcase their new filtering tool or something like that. And then I would explain how to do it with screenshots and things. So yeah, that's pretty much the main things.
It's cool. It's like multiple streams of income. So it's not like all your eggs in one basket. It's just being really resourceful still.
Yeah. Oh, and then I have ebooks as well, which is new. And that's actually a really good way to do passive income. I have a book about Goa only, and then I have a book about India as a whole, like traveling there.
Wow. And you just created those yourself?
Yeah. I, again, YouTube, how to make an ebook.
Amazing.
And you can actually, if you have a Mac, you can get iBooks Author for free. It's like a little program to make books, and it's really user-friendly. So I just made the book in there. You export it and upload it to this site called Gumroad, and you can sell it straight through there. They just take a fee from you. It's
incredible. And I want to congratulate you on the over 1 million followers a month. That is, or readers, I should say, excuse me. That's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for people, I guess, that are just getting started, what advice would you give to them as far as monetization? Because now, like, you have this much larger following as far as like social media and even readers. Just getting started, what would you kind of give a couple tips of advice on monetization?
Well, a lot of established bloggers will tell people that you shouldn't worry about it at first, because you need to make sure your voice is out there and you're only worrying about being yourself and giving good advice, and don't think about the money. But I really think that you can be business savvy and be authentic and helpful. So I always tell people you've got to think about it as a business from the get-go, because if not, let's say you write a post about how to travel on a train in India, like I said before, and then 2 years later you think about making money. Now you have to go back to all those old posts and think about how you can monetize them. Like, oh, I use a chain link, like a bike chain to keep my bag locked to the train. So I could link to that on Amazon. So I just tell people from the very beginning, you need to think about the income streams, and it's so easy to find online how to make money with blogs, and do it from the get-go, because it's going to save you time and money from doing it later on, or hiring an assistant to do it for you later.
That makes so much sense, because even if your first article you get 2 people read it, But now I'm sure people are still reading it. People are still finding it. So,
and now I have 1,000 articles. It would be impossible to go back and fix it. Plus, let's say even only your mom read it and she clicked on that link to the bike chain and then was like, because she didn't know what it was, and then she ended up buying paper towels, you get a commission.
That's so funny. I didn't know that they actually send you a list of the things that you got the commission on. That's hilarious.
They do, yeah. One time I had somebody order all this art supplies, like easels and paint and everything, but then if they return it, you lose the money. So I remember thinking, I hope she becomes really good at art and keeps all this stuff, and it's not some like thing on a whim and then she's going to return it saying, oh, maybe I don't like art.
That's so fun. You can like get a gauge on what people are doing with their lives.
Yeah, kind of creepy.
Right, it's a little creepy now that I think about it, but that's funny. Okay, what are a few of the biggest lessons you've learned on this first leg of your journey?
Gosh, I think that you start to realize how you can simplify your life. I've really simplified my life. I can think back to what I was doing when I lived in Charlotte or even in college, and spending money for trendy outfits and thinking too much about things and about people who weren't even my real friends. They were just acquaintances, and just putting all my energy into a million places when instead I could just be simplifying my life so much. And I think moving to India, I had to simplify my life because I lived in the jungle. And even the first year I lived there, for like 8 months, I didn't even have a cell phone. So I was like completely disconnected before I started my blog. And I realized that you don't need to be so connected. Obviously with my blog now I'm connected, but I'm not really my personal life. I don't share it on Facebook, and I'm not like all over social media in that way. And I became more into having less things, but things of quality. So less shopping, and just, buy one raincoat that's going to last you 20 years and then never think about a raincoat again, kind of thing. So it's made me be a little bit more minimalistic, and I don't know, just need less things.
No, it totally makes sense. It's all about simplifying your life, and then you'll appreciate that raincoat more than if you had 8 of them. You're like, oh, which one am I going to wear today? There's like a sentimental value there also.
Right. Yeah.
So any other little tips or some of the big things that you've learned on this first 5.5-year journey, the beginning of the blog, making that leap of faith?
It's just that things are going to work themselves out. When I first moved to India, it was like, oh my God, I don't have a job. How am I going to make money? What about healthcare? What about, I had to get rid of my car insurance. Your driver's license expires. You literally get to the point where you are out of the system completely. Like, you're not making money, so you're not paying taxes. You're literally like off the grid, no connection to the real world. Like, all your cards are going to expire. You don't even have a cell phone anymore. So it's just like, you think, how is any of this going to work out? But eventually it just will. It just somehow will work out. If you push yourself towards what you want to do, you'll find ways for it to work out. It will happen. I can't explain it, but I just feel like when you push yourself towards what you're actually passionate about or what your dream is, you can't think about all these little things that are scaring you along the way. You just have to go for it and figure them out as you go.
It's funny how you said that, because from what I've heard and listened to on my own journey, that's what everybody says. Not everybody, but the people who have achieved something great in their lives. They just say you have to make that leap of faith and everything will just work itself out. Like you said, you can't worry about all the little things and not do it. Once you make that leap of faith, the universe or God or whatever, things will align for you, and it'll be the best thing that you ever did. So I totally agree and 100% understand what you're saying. So that's cool. Simplify your life and just know that things will always work themselves out. 2 huge things. I love that. So a couple final questions, wrap us up. How is your mindset now compared to when you started here almost 6 years ago? What are some major shifts that you've had?
I mean, one thing, I don't really drink or party much. I go to bed early, and I don't think it's an age thing because most of my friends my age still do stay up late and party and everything. I just kind of got removed from that world, and America is really, rage is really hard. I mean, like, we went to the same, you went to OSU, didn't you?
Yeah.
It's like pretty intense if you look back at it. And you start to realize when you travel that other people don't really do that. They're actually a little more like sophisticated and like blackout drunk like 3-4 nights a week. And it kind of opened my eyes to like, that actually isn't what I want to be doing. And I really probably shouldn't have been doing it all the years that I was. So I've definitely cut back on the partying, the drinking. I try to do things that are more like, are going to help me in life, help me be a better person, help me help other people, and not just think about how is this going to help me. I try to think about just a little bit outside of just myself, which India is like very about letting go of your ego. So even if you're not a spiritual person, you can't live in India for as long as I did and not pick up some of these like spiritualistic things that all the yogis go by and believe in. So some of that I've definitely picked up and it's stuck with me. What was the question?
No, that's great. How's your mindset now compared to how it was, when you were first getting on that flight to India? But, that really sums it up. You have anything else to say on that, go for it.
Yeah, I just think that it's just going from doing what you're meant to do, coming from a small town, you go to school, you play school sports, you go to college, you get good grades, you get a job, you do exactly what your parents did. It's what all your friends are doing, and it's supposed to be the right thing. But it's not until you leave that and you see other ways. Like some kids, didn't do that schooling. They waited till they were 9 and then went to school and went to some artsy Montessori school or something and had a completely different way of growing up. And they're just fine. There's not only one way of doing things. And so I just my mind opened up so much to other ways of life from traveling and from living in India and meeting all the other people who live there from around the world that I actually feel like a completely different person than the person I was before I left on the trip.
I feel you. Lauren and I are honestly the same exact way. We've evolved like crazy this past few years. We don't really drink. We're going to sleep early, and it's just it's a totally different mindset altogether.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what was your favorite, most iconic experience that you had during your time in India? One thing that really sticks out that was your favorite, top of the list?
So hard. I did get to meet the Apatani tribe, which is a tribe in Zero Valley in a state called Arunachal Pradesh. And it's a permit zone in India. So when you come just on a visa, you can't go to this area. You have to get special permits and things. And so I got to go up there, and it's a state that used to be headhunters. So cannibals. And they aren't anymore, but they have full face tattoos. It's what, as a kid, you see on National Geographic, Mm-hmm. It's people who keep to themselves, and they've got bones through their nose and all kinds of cool things going on, and they do sacrifices, and they worship the moon and the sun. And I got to go there and meet them, and it was so cool. And it was also just cool to see how life has changed for them, because the world has evolved. There aren't really a lot of these tribes that are just hidden away. They've been exposed to the real world. And, the mix between old and modern going on, it was just so interesting. So that was definitely one of the coolest things.
That sounds crazy. You're right. You painted that picture perfectly. That's exactly what you see on National Geographic. How did you make that happen? How did that kind of come to be?
I actually worked with a company called Holiday Scout who do tours up there, and it was a kid younger than me running the tour, and he emailed me you've got to come to my home state. And I ended up we stayed at his mom's house, and it was really home style. It was negative 5 degrees and there's no heat there. So like at night, you just freeze. You're so cold all the time. And I only had skinny jeans and a leather jacket. Like that would be the warm clothes I had. And it was all homestays, like sitting with the families. And they used to be, in some of these areas of the state, they used to be Tibetan. So it's like eating Tibetan food and going to Buddhist monasteries. And it was absolutely one of the coolest trips I've ever done. And it was completely random just from this guy emailing me.
Wow, that's amazing. You've really inspired me to go travel, because everything you're talking about is what I love, it's to not necessarily to travel to Greece and see the Mediterranean, but to see these ancient, really meaningful places, with some true history. I think it's really incredible.
Yeah, and I think that's why my blog did well, is because people weren't really going to all of these places in India. They would see the Taj and then they would head on to the next hotspot in another country. So I love being able to show the really in-depth places in India and show people like the customs and the culture and go a lot deeper.
Yeah, you carved out your niche, and it's really cool how you did that. It's just sets you apart from everybody else. And you think not a lot of other people are like that, but, more than you would think, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I found that.
A million more, I guess, in your case. Awesome. Okay, Rachel, well, thank you so much. Just to wrap up, I want to have people reach out to you. Where can we follow you along? What's the name of your blog? Where can people connect with you? Tell us a little bit about that.
So my blog is called Hippie In Heels, and it's hippieinheels.com, but there's a dash between the hippie and the in, which if you do a website, don't get a dash in it. Try very hard not to, because it's really annoying. But it's hippie-inheels.com. And you can find me on Instagram at Hippie In Heels blog.
Awesome. Well, Rachel, thank you so much. This has been incredible. I feel inspired all over again. And there it is, guys and girls. I told you that this would leave you motivated, ready to go. I know I'm charged up, ready to take on the world. So I hope that you guys take action after listening to this, because nothing will fall into your lap. Rachel had to make that leap of faith in order for this to happen. And, she didn't have everything figured out in the beginning, and neither do you. It can be helpful, but at the end of the day, if you're doing what you're passionate about and stuff that excites you, doors will continually to open up. And that has been a recurring event in all of my interviews, all of these successful people. You just take that first step, and the next step will present itself. You just are here to take action and execute on that. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. If you could do me a huge favor, head over to iTunes, comment, subscribe, leave me a review, and please share this with a friend if you enjoyed this show or enjoyed one of the previous ones. It helps us spread the movement, bring more awareness to the show. And please interact with Rachel and I on Instagram or Facebook. She's on Instagram at Hippie In Heels blog. And I am on Instagram at Tal and Tamir. Same with Facebook. So I hope you enjoyed this. I love you all. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon.